Some people will look at your life and see the things that you're doing and believe them to be distractions. You might have family members, friends, coworkers, people around you that are comfortable enough to share their opinions with you on a day-to-day basis that will let you know that whatever it is you're doing currently is a distraction. Now, of course, I'm not talking about those escapist type of activities. However, I'm also not the one to judge. Let me turn this off real quick. I'm also not the one to judge because I used to think somebody playing video games all day was a distraction. When there are now EA players or E players, I don't even know what it's called, but I know there are folks who are playing video games for a living, right? And that's how they get into the bag. That's how that person is living out their bliss. That's how that person is fulfilled. And I'm all for that. I'm for anybody who is living out their purpose, doing the thing that they're here to do, doing the thing that brings the most life to them, because that's going to bring life to everybody else. However, when you find yourself in that place, when you're doing something that is authentic to you, that not everybody else is, hip to per se, they may look at you and think that is a distraction. For example, when I first started music, it looked like a distraction, to the adults around me, to the parentals. It looked like a distraction. Like, you're supposed to be focused on your schoolwork. You're supposed to be focused on homework. You're supposed to be focused on getting to college. You're at a private institution right now. You're at a Catholic school. You have an opportunity to really do something. And here you are, rapping into a microphone about God knows what, for God knows what reasons. That's a distraction. And at first, I didn't buy into it because we resist at first, right? It's kind of like when you're a child. You resist, you resist, you resist until you finally start to give in, and then you finally start to buy into other people's narratives. So at first, somebody tells you you can't do that, right? You can't be a actor. You say, I'm going to be the biggest actor, the biggest superstar in the world. I'm going to be in all the movies. You can't do that. I'm going to be the greatest astronaut. You can't do that. I'm going to be, the greatest scientist with the greatest discoveries of all time. You can't do that. And eventually you start to say to yourself, you know what? Maybe I can't do that. Maybe I need to do something that is quote unquote realistic. Maybe I need to find a path for myself that everybody around me can at least accept or see as worthwhile. And so my saying is, one person's distraction is another person's destiny. Let me run that back one more time. One person's distraction is another person's destiny. So to me, sitting down and playing video games may be a distraction to me, right? However, getting in front of this camera right now and throwing a video on YouTube is not a distraction. Where somebody else, if they did this right now and they spent, their hour creating this video, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, that may seem pointless to them because it's not aligned with their own purpose. And so we have to stop taking the advice of people who have not been given the vision that we've been given, right? And that's going to mean the people closest to you. That's going to mean family members. That's going to mean relatives. That's going to mean people who mean the most to you. That might mean the person who's laying out. Okay, if you are with somebody right now, if you're in a relationship with somebody who does not see your vision or can't support your vision, that is an issue. I used to think it was normal. I used to think it was normal to have somebody who doesn't support you, but that's not it. That's not it, because you're choosing that relationship, right? In the same way we choose our friendships, we choose that intimate relationship. And if you find yourself in a relationship where that person is questioning the things you want to do with your own life, you got to question the validity of that relationship and why they're so afraid of you doing those things. Because most people will masquerade it as I care. It's just because I care. I don't want to see you fail. I want to see you, live a life in which you don't have to struggle, etc. And I started buying into a lot of those mentalities. I was even ashamed to call myself a creator, an artist, right? Making music, creating, a huge buzz and having fan bases and performing, doing all these things. Yet I was embarrassed to call myself an artist. Instead, I wanted people to call me a digital marketer, what I did in daytime, as opposed to, I wanted to be Clark Kent, basically, as opposed to Superman, who I was at nighttime. I was, trying to convince people, no, I'm Clark Kent. I'm Clark Kent, when really I'm Superman. And this is what we find ourselves doing, for, again, the approval and admiration and acceptance of other people. And these same people we want the affection and the admiration of are miserable. We are literally looking for miserable people to affirm us, right? Just so we can have the numbers, so we can have the collective, so we feel good about ourselves, so we feel secure, because we have not yet learned how to cultivate that within ourselves. We're still people pleasing as opposed to living in our personal power. Shameless plug. My first published book, Doing Me Guilt Free. Breaking free from people pleasing and unleashing your true personal power. Make sure to get yourself a copy. Click the link description. But back to the point. One person's Destiny is another person's distraction. One person's distraction is another person's destiny. You may have a vision for your life right now that may even look like a distraction to you, but yet it's so compelling. And the only reason it seems like a distraction is because you've been told to do something other than what you actually want to do. And I just came back from the coffee shop. I was doing some writing, finishing up one of the screenplays for a show that I'm putting together, right? And as I was finishing up, some of the last edits on, I think that's episode 5 that I'm on right now of the first season. As I was finishing up these edits, I look over to my left and I see this group of kids who are oftentimes, well, kids to me, right? They're kids because they're like 3 or 4 years younger, but I see these college students and I see them there quite often at the Starbucks. And I see the textbook for the first time that this young lady has, and it says MCAT, MCAT. I didn't know what that meant. I don't know what an MCAT is. I know what a cat is. I know what an M is, right? M is a letter that comes before UNI, right? Hope you caught that one. And a cat is, the thing that you love or hate, which I happen to have a love for. So I looked it up. What is an MCAT? And I see that it is a test you take before you go into medical school. And I saw this group of individuals who are in a certain ethnicity, right? This isn't a race thing. It's just a cultural thing. And I recognize that this certain culture, this certain ethnicity, oftentimes has its people, its children forced into certain spaces, or at least it compels them to be in certain spaces. So, they'll tell their children, you must all be doctors. Like me, I'm African, right? Born and raised, Zimbabwe right here on my chest. And, in our culture, it might be, make sure to get your education. Make sure to get a higher education. Go to college. That's the narrative that is pumped to us because that seems like a safety net. Because back home, where there seem to be few opportunities, it seems that education is the only path out. And so when I came to a place like this, it was a whole new world for me on some Aladdin type stuff, right? On some Jasmine and Aladdin type. I couldn't believe that there was this world where you could actually make your own path, but I was still so indoctrinated that I was still trying to take that traditional path as opposed to listening to my own intuitive guide, right? Until it was too much to bear. So anyway, back to these kids at this coffee shop. I'm seeing them doing their thing, but I can tell that at least 3 of them do not want to be doctors. Maybe one of them wants to be a doctor in that entire group. At the very, very least, 3 of them don't. Maybe 4 didn't. Maybe all of them at that table didn't want to be. But I could tell by the energy, I could tell by the way they were engaging with their work, etc., and the way they engage with their work every time I see them. And now knowing what path they're on, it's obvious that these kids are forcing themselves into a box that seems to be reliable. They're fitting themselves into a box that seems to be security, that seems to be quote unquote realistic. Because according to that culture, these are the things that matter. According to that culture, these are the things that are relevant, right? And everything else is a distraction. So if one of those kids decides that they want to be an artist, their own culture would say that's a distraction, when in truth, for that child, it's actually destiny. And so we will pull ourselves away from the very destiny that we've been given, from the very path, right? From the very purpose that has been instilled and ingrained into us in order for us to make the people around us comfortable, I would say, in order to appease the status quo of our environment. We will find ways to fit into that square little box, tiny little box that will make us just like everybody else, so we don't make too much noise, so we don't shine too bright, so we don't, God forbid, start to trigger people's insecurities who are not able to live out their own purpose and were too afraid to step into their own destiny. And so again, they will perpetuate this message of that's a distraction. And that's why I stopped listening to folk about my dreams. That's why I stopped listening to folk about my vision and my destiny, because it's in me. And I spent too much time. I spent too many years going back and forth, leaving the very thing that I wanted to do most, that I was called to do, the thing that compelled me most. I had opportunities after opportunities presented to me in the spaces that I was supposed to be in. Like, I had the craziest synchronicities happening. I was recently telling my girl, like, I had a performance I did, Hamilton performance. It's a long story. I was dressed up as a Hamilton character at this charity event. And as I'm performing a song, MC Hammer literally walks up to the stage and is right there. Standing right under me is MC Hammer, watching me bobbing his head to a song that I had written in the Hamilton form. And yet I wasn't even able to see that, oh, this is the universe showing me, like, this is destiny. This is, this is your calling. Instead, I was just seeing it as, a way to make some money using this little side talent that I have. But then I was still trying to show the world that I was somebody who they could understand, right? I was somebody who could fit in this box. And that was also a fear that I had, is like, am I wasting my time, you know, recording these videos? I was recording videos and crickets were on the other side. Now, of course, the following is growing and people are engaging and, things are taking off, etc. But there was a point in time where it was crickets. And it was easy to think to myself, damn, is this just a distraction? Am I just distracting myself from adulting, from real life? Maybe I should go back into that corporate job, that 9 to 5. But now I find myself, at a place 6 months after that decision where channels monetize and it's going up and different things are going up. And I've thrown myself into my other giftings, right? Man, is it a distraction to be spending all this time writing the books, to be writing the screenplays, to be recording the music? Is that a distraction? Should I be doing that? Maybe I should do something more secure. Maybe I should do something else. No, that's my destiny. The things that I'm called to, the things that I'm compelled by, that's my destiny. And the only person who can pull me off of that path is me, right? Because when it's all said and done, people can inspire or people can influence my decisions, but they can't make my decisions for me. So I'm also not going to sit here and blame people for, me finally realizing at 27 years old, like, man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. These are the things that compel me most. These are the things that I love most. And I will be damned if I'm going to do anything other than the things that I'm called to do. I'll be damned if I live outside of my purpose at this point, outside of my vision, right? Whatever that's going to look like is what it's going to look like. But I'm not going according to somebody else's course because they see my life as a distraction. And most of the ones who call whatever you're doing a distraction are eventually going to call what you're doing destiny, right? When you get to a certain point, like let's say you're a hooper, you really are that hooper, you really are nice on the court and you're dedicating time and energy, they're going to think, man, this kid is wasting their time on a basketball court playing a child's game. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in the NBA. Oh, wow, the glory child, the chosen one. We always knew you would make it. We always knew you had it in you. It'd be the same exact people who were once telling you this is a distraction, who would tell you it's destiny. But guess what? It's not for you to bring those people into a place where they understand what is within you. It never will be, never was. And frankly, it don't matter whether or not they jump on the bandwagon of the train anyway, because you're the only one who can sign off on that paperwork. You're the only one who can sign that permission slip, right? That this is something that I can do, am able to do, and am willing to do, regardless of anybody else's understanding or lack thereof. And there will be people in your life who are destiny helpers, right? I'll be lying to you. The first few people who are watching, the first few people who are tapping in on the IG, on the YouTube, the first people buying the book immediately, right? Hearing that, man, this is something that this young man has put out and it's something I want to invest in. There are people who have always showed love throughout the process, but there were also those who simply saw it as a distraction. And I allowed those voices to be louder than those who were supporting for so long. I allowed the voices of those who saw my gifting as a distraction or saw my investing into my gifting as a distraction more than I believed in my own voice. And finally, I've come to a place where I say no more of that. Enough is enough, period. I'm going to live my life, and I have to live my life the most authentic I can in alignment with my vision. Because what God has placed in me, God has placed in me. What God's placed in you, God has placed in you, period. And that's the only thing that matters when it's all said and done is the purpose you live by, because that then brings everything else, right? That gift makes room for you. That gift is going to open up opportunities. It's going to open up relationships, abundance, etc. You start to attract to yourself everything that you need because you're living in alignment with who you are. And when you do not express yourself authentically, when you don't express yourself as you are, as you're created to be, then you're doing so inauthentically and you're going to live an inauthentic life. You're going to have inauthentic relationships. You're going to have inauthentic experiences in your job and in your career. You're going to have resentment and hatred towards the things that you do. Yes, sure, you can come to a place where you can find peace and appreciation in doing something that you hate, but you still will have in the back of your mind and at the top of your heart that you are not aligned with the thing that you're here to do, with the life that you're here to lead. And so I urge you at this moment, I ain't going to beg. I ain't too proud to beg. I ain't going to beg you to do a daggone thing. I'm not going to beg you. I'm just going to tell you straight up that when you Allow the opinions of those who see your gifting as a distraction to stop you from your destiny. You will suffer. And when you make a decision to step into the thing that is your destiny and to silence the rest of those voices, life will begin to open up for you. So, that being said, I want to share a piece of my destiny with y'all. My first published book, Doing Me Guilt Free, Breaking Free from People Pleasing and Unleashing Your True Personal Power. This book right here, honestly, is going to be easily one of the best investments that you make. I didn't write this in, traditional quote unquote self-help way where it's just talking about the very same old, same old. Like this thing right here is going to be an original piece of work for you. The same way I'm talking to you right now is the same way this is written directly to you. It's something you will live and breathe with, and it's something that's going to truly liberate you in this time in your life. So make sure to get yourself a copy by clicking the link in the description below or the link wherever else you may find it. Doing Me Guilt Free by Aquarius Waive. See you when I see you. Appreciate you guys. Much love. Namaste. Namaskar.